Those of you who are readers out there, this book is a fabulous book. I highly, highly recommend it. It's a book called Love, Skip, Jump, and it's by Shailene Bryan. Really great book. In the book, she talks about a trip that she took to Africa. And she describes the conditions of the people who were living in these tribes in Africa. And if you are having a hard time being positive about your life, I encourage you to read this book and get outside of yourself for a moment and put yourself in somebody else's shoes. The poorest person in this country, the most malnourished person in this country, is better off than almost every other person in the world. We live in a great country. We live in a great society. We have so much in this society that we don't even realize how great it is. You know, my thermostat in my house broke about a week ago. So though I have heat, I can't turn it on. And it is cold in my house right now. And it's 65, and that's really cold for me. It got down to 61 the other day, and I have a feeling it's going to get even colder tonight. But do you know that my cold house tonight is still better than 99.9999999% of the world? We do not have anything to complain about in this life. I'm looking at y'all. You're well-dressed, you're well-groomed, your hair is perfect, you look like you had something for breakfast this morning, and if you didn't, you're going to eat something for lunch. We have got a good life here in the United States. There is zero excuse for not being positive, no matter what you are going through. If you truly believe that God is for you, then you will be able to put on a happy face, and you will be able to believe that God has got a plan for your life and that He will walk you through whatever it is that you're going through in order to get there. And in the meantime, the happier you are, the more joyful you are, the better off you'll be. I was thinking about Joseph during this time, and you can go and I actually read the account of Joseph. It starts in Genesis chapter 37, and as I was driving to school this morning, my son, who wakes up in a happy mood every single day of his life, woke up this morning in a bad mood. And I thought, what's wrong? Because I'm getting ready to go talk about being positive. So I got to share this story with my kids. And you know, as I was telling them the story of Joseph, I literally started to cry in the car. And then my son, who was having a bad day, was bawling back there. And I thought he was just still having a bad day, but he said, "Mommy, I'm crying because of what you told me about Joseph." And so I'm just going to remind you, I'm just going to share a little bit about Joseph's story. I'm not going to read the whole thing. It would take way too long this morning, and I'm pushing my time as it is. But the story of Joseph starts with Joseph is the favored child, and all his brothers are really jealous of him. So they decide that they're going to throw Joseph in the pit to try to get rid of him, because he's told them that they're all going to come and bow down to him one day. And Joseph goes to the pit, and then he's sold to Potiphar. And Potiphar puts him in charge of his house, and the Lord is with Joseph while he's there. And while he's there, Potiphar's wife decides that she kind of likes Joseph, and so she tries to make a pass at him. And Joseph, being the godly, good man that he is, decides that he's not going to do that. He'll have no part of it. He wants to honor God, so he runs out. She's holding his shirt. She comes back. She tells a lie about Joseph and gets him thrown into prison. Now, he's been in a pit, and now he's been in prison. And eventually, he gets checked out of prison, and he becomes second in command only to Pharaoh in all of Egypt. And he ends up saving his brother's life. And you know, I was talking to the kids, and as I was saying it, I thought, think about Joseph. Joseph had every reason in the world to feel bad. He had been betrayed by the people that he loved the most. His brothers threw him in a pit. Can you imagine that act? Like, he's just this kid, and they're like, "Come on out with us." And then they dump him in this pit. I can imagine the walls being all the way around him and him clawing his way, trying to get out. "Don't leave me here, guys. What are you going to do? I'm going to die inside this pit. You can't let me do this." And them ignoring him. Or whatever kind of jabs that they threw at him. "Oh, you think you're the favored son now." Can you imagine how Joseph must have felt? And then when he finally gets out and God promotes him to Potiphar's house and he becomes a slave, in a nice house, but he's still a slave. I don't know how your family's treating you, and maybe you feel like the slave in your house. Maybe you feel like you're the do-girl, and you're underappreciated and misrepresented, and nobody seems to care that you're doing it all. Imagine how Joseph felt. He was a slave. He went to the pit. He became a slave. Then he went to prison. Do you think maybe one time he might have thought, God, where are you? I thought I was going to do these great and mighty things. I thought you were with me. I thought you were for me, God. My family's betrayed me. Can you imagine the hurt that he had? And yet I do not believe for a second that Joseph stayed there. I believe with my whole heart, though it doesn't strictly say it in the word, that Joseph had a positive attitude even in the midst of a very negative situation. You can have a positive attitude even in the midst of your negative situation. If you will have a positive attitude in the midst of your negative situation, God will put you up. He will promote you. There is no doubt in my mind that had Joseph not had a positive attitude, that he would never have done and fulfilled the call of God in his life. And you know what amazes me is that even though his brothers treated him so poorly, they were so awful to him, but yet when they came back to him and when his vision or his dream came to pass and they were bowing down before him asking for bread, he held their life in his hands. He could have had them beheaded. He could have done whatever he wanted to. Yet the word says that Joseph had to leave the room because he wept so hard for that family. There is no doubt in my mind that Joseph had been hurt. And I don't know where you are in your relationships and how hurt you've been, but I promise you that if you will take that hurt and you will hand it over to the Lord, he said he puts your tears in a bottle, that he will take and he will make that beautiful. Restoration came to Joseph and his family. He ended up moving the whole family to Goshen, the area that was safe. They ended up being fed and well taken care of. They gave him extra animals. They did all kinds of wonderful things for him. Why? Because Joseph chose to be positive, to stay positive, to let go of the hurt, to let go of the bitterness, to be